The ICA Global Commissioning Standard is now available for download. I had a good chat with my good friend Crawford Weir. Crawford is one of the leading commissioning experts, and we discuss how the ICA Global Commissioning Standard can help you and your projects. Have a listen.
You're listening to the Industrial Commissioning Association podcast, where we discuss best practices for industrial plant process and energy system commissioning. Get ready to say no to outdated industry norms and say yes to improved project performance. Here's your host, Paul Turner.
Crawford, how are you doing today?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, sunny day in Houston, so all is well.
Nice and cold and winter here in Manitoba, so we're right in the depths of winter here. So we've been working on a commissioning standard here for the last little while. It's been quite a bit of work to put together a commissioning standard we've been working on. Why don't you tell the viewers kind of what we've been working on in the last several months?
Yeah, certainly, Paul. So what's been happening is Paul and I and many people here are very committee commissioning professionals, but we feel there's not really been a standard for commissioning as such. There's a lot of documents out there, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of literature, but we're not seeing anything standardized. There was a document for quite a number of years ago called API 1FSC, which was a good entry document, like a commissioning 101, you might say. So you could say this is a move on from that. And this has spawned up over the last probably 4 or 5 years. Paul and I were involved in the CPS, the Commissioning Professional Society. We did some seminars and some conferences and tried to bring together commissioning from a ground level up. And after that, Paul kept it going and I managed to be able to help him. And we've developed this 9-volume process over the last 3 to 6 months. It's went through a lot of reviews for a lot of SMEs across the industry, taking all them comments, and it was issued this week and it's free. So I'll leave it at that, Paul, and we can hand back to you for some more on the documents.
It definitely seemed like there's been a gap in the industry for sure. I don't think there's anybody that would agree that commissioning is very well understood on projects, right? The people that are in commissioning, they would generally understand the process, but construction groups, design groups, project management groups, it's almost kind of like a black box. It's not well understood at all. And I felt that some of the legacy information that's out there left some things to be desired. There was gaps in the process, didn't fully define a complete commissioning process, particularly at the beginning of projects, right? Commissioning is often viewed as an end of project testing process when it's really a process that spans the entire duration of projects. So that's what kind of prompted us to develop the Industrial Commissioning Association commissioning standard, is to give that holistic process that spans the entire duration of projects. And yeah, like you mentioned, Crawford, we've had a group of about 20 industry experts from all over the world, from all various industries, from oil and gas to power industries to data centers, transportation, manufacturing, all the industry experts, with the intention to collect commissioning wisdom of the world and compile it into this commissioning document. So it's been a great learning experience, great to reach out to a whole bunch of people. So maybe, Crawford, why does the industry need this commissioning standard? What's kind of been out there and what gaps does this fill? As in, why should someone go get this standard for their projects?
Well, I think a couple of things here, Paul, I'd like to touch on is that, as you said, commissioning for a lot of people, a lot of projects starts at mechanical completion, which is a term we'll talk about later because we're talking about retiring that term. But people don't see the value of the upfront engineering. That's industry over. I'm mainly an oil and gas guy, but I've touched on mining, I've touched on renewables, LNG. And I think the feedback was that people think that this crack commissioning team just parachute in it when construction's almost done and work the magic. So there's a great deal of work and planning that goes in up front for concept development, and we talk about that in the standard. And another thing to look at is this, as much as this is aimed at all the commissioning professionals out there, and there's a lot of them and a lot of talent, it also needs to talk to the decision makers, the money people, the project managers, directors. They got to understand it as well. So it's not just about, providing something for our peers and our like-minded folks. We need to you might say you want to spread the word to the whole industry at all levels. So we've got to set the tone here for what commissioning is, what commissioning does, how important it is, what's the ultimate value for flawless startup and stay up on any project.
And that's a big part of what we're up to here, is spreading the word. And that's why the standard is free in today's age of information. Then we want to get this information, use the internet to spread the message, spread the word, and help people understand commissioning. So there's no cost to access the standard. Get a copy and check it out. And I'm sure it will certainly help you on projects. So from your perspective, Crawford, what was one of the reasons or the driving forces that be one of the contributing members to this groundbreaking standard?
Well, you can see with the hair's getting grey, I'm getting older. I've been in the commissioning industry for a lot of years now, commissioning projects globally, working for a lot of the major companies. And I think I've seen how it's done in many places. I've agreed and disagreed with how it's done in many places. I've had the barrels, we've had the laughter, we've had the tears. So, and I think when you talk to most people, we all share a common goal about, doing the best job we can, bringing it online, flawless startup, that type of thing. So for me to get involved in something like this, and one, spread the knowledge, that I've gotten over the years. And, I've had a lot of great teachers over the years. I'll not name them all on here, but, the people watching that know me, they'll know who they are. They've been part of my success in the commissioning world. So you want to give something back to the people. And I think you said it's free. It's something that projects can bring in. You can use it as a complete suite of how to do your project. You can use it as a template to how to do it. You can use it in many different ways. So it's not rigid. I think it's there, and it'll be evergreen as we go on. There's a lot of people that have not seen this yet. They've not read it. They've not heard about it. So they will undoubtedly come and feed back to you, me, and others, maybe better ways and slicker ways of doing it. And we'll definitely update that as we go on. So the idea is we've got a live document that is going to help projects deliver globally in any industry.
That's a big part of it for me too, is giving back to the industry, right? There's lots of wise industry experts, commissioning experts out there, but a lot of them are retiring as well, right? Where they may be mentoring one or two junior engineers on a project. This is a way that I've thought to get this information out there more widespread and in the hands of people that are maybe just starting out in their commissioning career, to see what the phases are, the handover model, and kind of best practices as projects continue to get more and more complex. It's definitely a complex process and does require a bit of a structured approach, certainly a structured approach to be able to successfully complete today's mega projects. How would you expect a project team if they got their hands on this standard, what could they do with it? How would they use it on their projects?
Well, if you look at the standard, we've got, as now we're sitting at 9 volumes. Did you know we started with 6, and through the rigorous review process, it was decided to break some out. So the idea that these is one, it needs to be simplified version. It needs to be simple to read, and so people will want to read it. But I think most people reading this who've worked in the industry for a year, I don't think we're telling anybody anything that they don't already know. I think what we're just doing is packaging it up and maybe sort of looking at the terminologies. We're supplying you with pre-made roles and responsibilities in ICA 3. We're looking at on-site testing in 6. And if you go very to the end, we've got ICA 9, where we've got lessons learned and continuous improvement. So it's a cradle to grave type process that's been developed here. Some people, for some projects, maybe they're just missing one of them aspects in their existing setup. So they go, no, we've not really got a safety and risk management module. So maybe they just look at that one. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 5, maybe it's the whole suite. So I think that's the thing about it, is it's standalone or it's a complete package. So it can be really fit, and it should be able to fit in most company and most models. Whether you're a small company or one of the existing super majors, could definitely take something from it as well.
There are some updates maybe on some of the historical or legacy things that have existed in the industry. For example, ICA 002, the concepts are all the same. Like you said, nobody's going to be too shocked by any of the concepts in there, but there are some terminology updates that are worthwhile to indicate some of the terms. For example, mechanical completion has existed in the industry forever and is pretty ingrained in the industry, but doesn't really truly represent that construction completion milestone. So this is a bit of a refresh to adopt some new terminology going forward, and I think is probably where the industry should migrate to eventually. What are your thoughts on kind of some of those leading or dropping some of those legacy terms that may have existed in the industry and are kind of outdated?
I think, to want to go forward and improve and for continuous improvement, I think like all industries, I think we've been littered with terms that have got 2 and 3 meanings to different people. One of my sort of ones that I kind of struggle with, but it kind of gets on me a little bit is pre-commissioning. The word pre-commissioning, it's got so many meanings. Pre-commissioning can mean, doing the B check sheets, the part between traditionally mechanical completion and dynamic commissioning. It also has a different meaning if you work in the offshore subsea industry. A lot of the service companies that provide a lot of what they call pre-commissioning work is like flushing and bolt torquing. So I think that's a term that it's got many meanings, and it can be very confusing if you come to a new company or a new project and the first thing you got to do is learn a whole new playbook of terms. It's probably like going to a new team and learning a new playbook, some new tactics. So I think the biggest one, and we saw some feedback on some of the LinkedIn posts, was on mechanical completion. That seems to be one of the cornerstones of the industry that we're daring to take a sledgehammer to. But a few years ago, a guy I worked with, good commissioning manager, you heard him use the term construction complete, and I kind of liked that. I thought, well, it's construction complete. It's not mechanically complete. It's not instrument complete. It's not electrically complete. It is construction complete. We move in. So I think this is good. I think some people will find it hard, but change is always, people don't like change, but I think our reasons for doing it, I think, are justified. I think the majority of the people get it and support it. So, and people, one of the comments said, well, it's ingrained in contractual language. Well, it will be in these contracts, but in 10 years, it probably won't be. It'll be construction complete. So we'll move forward, we'll improve, and we'll hopefully standardize the terminology, and we'll all be talking the same language, the commissioning language.
That's a good point. The industry isn't going to standardize overnight, but it's a goal to achieve, right? As the next new contract is written, can adopt some of these more modern terms and maybe drop some of the legacy. Because one thing I hear from everybody I talk to is, wouldn't it be fantastic if there was a standardized approach to commissioning on all projects? Because it's super challenging for people to go from one project to the next because there is no standardization, right? It's learning that whole new set of terminology. It's going through a differently structured process. And when industry experts are in such high demand, it makes it really challenging for people to move from one project to the other, because it's always different on every project. What are your thoughts on that, Crawford, on at least making it easier for the industry to have a common understanding?
Well, I think we could talk about projects and commissioning all day. And I think probably if you look at, the other functions, project controls, construction, procurement, I think we all fight similar battles within our function. So I think if we can do something, we can concentrate on the commissioning world as we're doing. And if we can standardize this and get that language there and make projects more viable, simpler. And at bottom line as well, I mean, if you look at how we do these projects, I've got a saying, fail to plan and you're planning to fail. You do the setup, you get ready to go. And I think most people would agree with that. So once we get the standard in, once project managers, once construction managers, procurement managers understand the basics of our process and what we do, I think that's been part of the problem is that commissioning can be seen as a bit of a boogeyman, or what do these guys do, or when do they show up? So I think it's to be doing a lot of PR as well, which is what some of them conferences you and I were involved in was all about doing, was bringing in commissioning and non-commissioning people and just showing what commissioning is, what it can do, meet the people, and how it can make your project simpler. Because at the end of the day, we're the last guy in line. We start it up. We're that kind of last part before operations. So we kind of walk in the operations and the project side of the business. So we got a vested interest. But to me, it's just about educating the project management, the decision makers. And I've had a couple of experiences with that, where a process that I've used, my Apex process, just to explain how it works in the engineering planning phase and then the execution phase. And when you talk to people that don't really understand it, I've seen the light bulbs come on. So these 9 documents leverage a little bit of that as well. So again, it's just about getting out there, educating everybody, including ourselves, and making us better communicators as well as the commissioning people, making us better commissioning professionals, so we can communicate better in the early stages of a project, what it needs, in the middle stages, the early execute, and the late execute, because it's a big responsibility on us as well. We can talk about how we're misunderstood, but we obviously got to take a step back, and this will help us to communicate that in a very coherent and succinct way to the other functions.
And this was written with that in mind as a tool to help everyone on projects understand. So it's written in a way that project managers, project sponsors, executive can take any one of these documents and get a better understanding of what this commissioning process is really all about. So maybe project teams are using this to define their workflows for on-site commissioning, but others may choose to take it and use it as a tool, a communication tool, to help them explain to others on their project why they're asking for commissioning involvement early in projects, or why they're asking for commissioning software or those things, for example, so that all people on projects can see the value and importance that commissioning provides to projects.
Yeah, so digitalization now is becoming a big part of it, and AI. So these things will start to come in as we progress forward. And there's a big world out there, and I'm seeing more and more. I mean, traditional commissioning jobs were oil and gas, were water plants, mining type things, but data centers and everything, these gigafactories, it's really starting to really open up, and the commissioning world is spreading across. So I think in the next 5 years, there's so many new concepts, so many new industries coming along, and a lot of these are startups. And what I found with dealing with the startups, when I worked for a few companies a few years back, is they don't have any process for just about anything. They've not got a process for construction, they've got a process for procurement, so they certainly don't have a process for commissioning. So there's definitely a gap in the industry here where the ICA 9 volumes can be helpful.
And digitalization is an important topic because projects could just continue to get more complex, right, as there's more technology and more integration. And this standard was built with digitalization in mind. This 9 set of documents defines the commissioning process, but will likely also have a companion document that shows people how to digitalize this commissioning process, as well as the contractual implementation of this commissioning process. A lot of times we see that at the beginning of projects, commissioning is kind of an afterthought and not really incorporated into contracts quite correctly. So some guidance from the front end development and commissioning strategy is certainly a good aspect to consider on projects. One thing I've found in some of the previous or legacy commissioning standards is there's definitely not much, or if any, explanation of the early commissioning engineering phases that take place very early in projects. And maybe that's one of the reasons that commissioning is thought to be just testing at the end. But what are your thoughts, Crawford, on explanation of the critical early aspects of commissioning that are required in projects?
Like I said earlier, that I've got a sort of process that I've used. And if you think about, and using the iceberg analogy, where everybody sees that 10-20% above the water, which is what I call commissioning execution, which is what we're talking about, the field stuff, the loops, the dynamic tests, the performance tests. But the 80% lies below the water, and that's your early setup, that's your engineering phase. That's being involved at concept development, being involved when you're deciding, are we building a rig here, or are we building an FPSO, or are we just doing an extension to an existing field or a new plant? That part is all about setting up your project. That's your map, your roadmap, your project level documents, your execution plans, down to setting up all your drawings, your LOS, getting right through your involvement with engineering, setting up your completions database, getting your check sheets assigned, building your schedule, just to building all your processes and procedures. So that can be daunting, and when you see it as the iceberg scenario, it looks like a lot of work, but you find that it's a lot of activities, but it's not a lot of work in the grand scale of the thing. It's about, like you said, it's about 20% of the cost of the commissioning cost. But it's a very important part because it's the building blocks for a successful execution and startup. So we do talk about this in the standard, and I think that's probably one of the most underrated parts of commissioning, or the most misunderstood parts, because everybody knows the execution part. Everybody kind of knows or thinks they know the terminologies, but the on-site testing, as we've got in there, the handover, the closeout, that's all pretty much mainstream. But that's the part we've got to do a bit of work on. And I think everybody on the call or listening to this that's been in the positions that you and I have been in, they'll get this. And that's what we need to do, is really push that commissioning, engineering and planning phase, because without it, you're really just showing up and hoping for the best.
That's right. Yep. And I think for some of the existing standards that are out there, they've never really fully defined what early commissioning is. So in my mind, it's no wonder that it's not understood of why commissioning needs to be involved earlier in projects, because there's never been a document that really defines what early commissioning is. So we're pleased to include this now in a fully complete commissioning process in the ICA Global Commissioning Standard. Often you'll still hear, though, that people are making decisions. They don't want to invest in commissioning early on projects, that they see it as an additional cost, and that could come later on projects. What would you say to those folks, Crawford?
Well, I think it goes back to that understanding part, Paul, that I don't think people understand. I mean, the cost for execution is pretty high because there's a lot of people there. I mean, we've all worked on projects where you might have, into the hundreds of people, technicians, lead techs, engineers work in the field. So that's pretty high cost when it comes to manpower. But to actually set up at the start of the project, and as I said, it can look pretty daunting when you look at the number of tasks, because you've got between 70 and 100 tasks to do in somewhere like a 9 to 24 month period, depending on the size of your project. But the people it takes to do that, it's 20% of the cost. If you think of most commissioning budgets are about 4% of the project cost, and then you go take it 1/5 of that, so you're looking at less than 1%. It's money well spent to set you up for success, because as we all know, you can pay a little bit today and do it, or you can pay a big bit later on if you don't do it. So I think that's another understanding we need to get across to project directors and the people that control the budgets, is in the grand scale of a project, it's the really minimal cost for a really big upside at the back end.
And now we've got another great tool to help people with that discussion, where they can take the standard and help other people understand the importance of early commissioning involvement.
We're talking about that, Paul, on the Industrial Commissioning Association, which the ICA talks about, and that's something that you obviously set up and moving. So do you want to just share, exactly what the ICA is and how people can get involved?
Absolutely, yep. So anybody that's interested in getting the standard, you can go to icxa.net. There's a big button right at the top there. You can join the Industrial Commissioning Association. There's no cost to join. That gets you access to the 9 set of standard documents that make up the ICA Global Commissioning Standard. Plus, there's a resource area with lots of helpful information, all of the document templates that are required to implement the standard. They're all in the members area there. You can log in and check it out. And the reason we've built this resource is just for that reason, is there does seem to be a gap in information or understanding of commissioning. So this is our way to give back to the industry and help everybody understand this important and complex phase of projects, so that everyone's projects can have improved project success to meet cost and schedule objectives. When you look at some of the statistics that are ahead of us, global construction industry right now is, I think, at $13 trillion, and it's expected to almost double by 2040. So we've got a lot of projects to build for environmental reasons, for electrification, for a whole host of building out our infrastructure that we need. So we need to be pretty precise to make sure that we're hitting objectives on projects. And here's another tool that people can use on their projects and hit cost and schedule objectives.
Yeah. So I was just looking here, Paul, we've got some comments coming in, so I was just going to ring a few off. So there's obviously people tuned in, which is fantastic. So We kicked it off with Prem Kumar, who said it's amazing to be participating in the launch event, which we're happy to have you. And then I see Tony Davis is in here. So then, Tony was one of the reviewers of the documents. Tony's also a time commissioning professional and author as well. And he's there and he's connected with David, who's actually working on my project. So they've connected. So there's a common link. So we're a very small industry here, it shows you. And then we've also got Brad Bosey. A change in corporate culture is required to complete projects successfully, which I think we agreed, and we kind of talked about that. And then another one of our guys well known to us is Martin over at Rev 1. He said, looking forward to supporting the adoption of the standard. Love the user-friendly structure. And then we've got Elfram Michael Valina. Looking forward. Great effort. Much appreciated. So we've got a little bit of folks coming in there. We've got standardization of commission will go a long way for the community. That's Manyang Deng. So we've got some good folks. There's a longer one in here. It'd be incredibly helpful if there was a push to begin having construction managers, planning managers, and procurement managers with a previous commissioning background, basically as part of the formal training. So there are some great comments, some great suggestions in there. Keep them coming. And as we said, it's an evergreen document. We want to keep it going. We want to keep it improving. We want to make sure it works for us and it works for everybody else.
So you can see, there's lots of support for this initiative. So the best thing you can do is get a copy of the standard and share it with other people. Get it in the hands of your project managers, get it in the hands of your construction folks, and share this information. That's the intent, is to get this information in the hands of as many people as possible. It's available for anyone to access. For someone that might not be aware of it, then please pass it on, share it, get them in touch. And with enough word of mouth and sharing this information, we can get it to proliferate through the industry and help everyone understand commissioning. And
it is an easy read because, we did start with 6 and some of them were into the hundreds of pages, and we decided to trim them back so that we want people to be able to pick it up and read it and get through it. It's something that, if you want to really kind of go for it, is, print it, put it in a binder, keep it in your office, keep it on your desk, make it available to people. You just go look at it as a reference document, call it an encyclopedia of commissioning maybe. So things like that, along with some of your other, maybe you've got Tony's book as well there, I don't know, on your shelf. So things like that for sure. So it's definitely what's happened here is this is being created now. There's been a cry for a long time, so it's here. So now we've got the standard, the tool. It's up to us as the commissioning professionals to then take it and march forward with it and use it and showcase it and get it into our projects. And then once you get it in your projects, that's when you come back and say, well, this could be a little better, or I've got a better idea for how we do this. And, come back, give us your ideas, and we'll include them and you'll get the credit for them. And that's the thing.
Yep, that's the important part of this process, right? There's a lessons learned and continuous improvement from project to project, and in the standard itself. That feedback loop is very important in both of those aspects, and that's ingrained in this standard for continuous improvement. So yeah, it's a tool to use and help you on your projects, and we're excited and happy to get it in your hands.
Here's a good question, just came in here from a LinkedIn user, said, has the standard been adopted by any of the accredited training institutes as of yet? I'm assuming that's part of the agenda.
So we do have accreditation from the Project Management Institute. We're an authorized training partner. So you'll notice when you read the standard, there is a section in there on training to this standard. Getting the information in people's hands is one thing. Applying the standard to your projects is another. Yeah. So there are companion training courses that go along with this, accredited by the Project Management Institute of Canada, to really supplement that project management understanding. If you go through any of PMI's information, you get your PMP, that's a great start to projects. But the piece that's missing there is this commissioning process to complete projects. So this is kind of the add-on supplement to go through the entire process on projects, not only to start from PMI's information, but actually to complete with the information we've compiled in this standard. So you can definitely check that out at icxa.net. When you download the standard, there's links right below there. You can check out any of the training options that are available as well. So that's maybe one thing that's been missing in the industry is, and partly the reason that it's been so disjointed and non-standardized, is there has never been that global authority or overseeing organization to define a fully complete commissioning process. So that's part of the gap that we're hoping to fill here, is to provide this structure for the global commissioning industry to at least have a standard to follow and standardize towards.
And also going forward, once people read this and try to implement it or move it into projects, we'd love to hear from you and how that's going on the journey. And if you reach out to Paul, definitely we can set up a couple of these smaller little podcasts, and people can share the experience of how well it's going or how well it's not going or how we can help. Because as a community, we need to all come together and make sure we're all getting our shoulder in and pushing it in the same direction.
Yeah, the feedback has been great this week since it launched, was available on the weekend. Then I've been getting lots of emails, questions, comments, support. There's definitely lots of interest. So next week, we'll also be starting a series, a meetup series to go through each of the 9 sections of the document. So anybody wants to join the meetup series, we'll meet as a community, go through kind of the structure of each document, how to use it, what's in there, and general concepts for commissioning. We'll have a series of those, maybe 3, 4, 5 weekly meetups for anyone that's interested to dive into deeper and understand this commissioning standard. And when you're a member, if you become a member of the Industrial Commissioning Association, you'll get all those alerts so that you don't miss any of the meetups, and you can join and engage with the commissioning community. And what it's really all about, right, is to share knowledge with the community and get everybody's input here to better understand commissioning. Yeah, no, definitely is. And we've had a lot of comments this week. One comment I just want to mention was there was a really nice comment on LinkedIn from Grant Gibson. Grant Gibson was the founder and owner of Gate, one of the big commissioning companies here in the US. And so when guys like that recognize it and get behind it, and the words these guys say, like I say, we've got Tony on the phone and other folks. So that tells you that we're doing something right. That tells you that it's something that the guys have been waiting for as well. So like I said, it doesn't matter whether you own the company or you're just walking in the door as a technician, there's something here for you. And today's technician is tomorrow's commissioning manager as well. Look at it that way. So you can learn this process early and get it on board. Then you should have a pretty good commissioning career ahead of you. And we definitely appreciate the support from the commissioning community. So happy to give back and happy to provide the community with a tool to better understand commissioning. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up almost, Paul. I think it's been an enjoyable kickoff. The week's been great. The comments, the support for the community has been wonderful, and onwards and upwards. Like we say, we go forward. Let's set the tone for commissioning. Absolutely, yeah. Appreciate your support, Crawford. Appreciate all the reviewers and inputs in compiling this standard, and appreciate the community's feedback on this commissioning standard. Definitely get a copy of it. Go to icxa.net. Get your copy, check it out, ask any questions, join the meetups. We're happy to share information and help everyone understand commissioning. So yeah, let's leave it there for today. If you have any questions at all, go to icxa.net. Feel free to reach out, ask any questions, get involved in the community, and we're here to help you understand commissioning. Yeah, well, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and let's go forward. ICXA, download it and use it. Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening. To become a member of the Industrial Commissioning Association, visit icxa.net. Members get access to commissioning standards, procurement specifications, commissioning training and certification, plus many more specialized resources to help you with commissioning of your industrial plant process and energy systems. Visit icxa.net for more information.